Spooky Pals! Today I will be sharing with you 21 brand new books to add to your autumn reading lists. Get ready for spooky and cozy vibes. Hello Spooky Pals, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. I love this time of year, okay? We all know that I come alive around October and I feel my most spooky self right now. It's just a glorious morning, you know what I mean?
Oh, look, another glorious morning.
Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 21 brand new book releases that have just come out sometime this year to add to your autumn reading list. I love making a good autumn reading list. I make them every single year. This is definitely not going to be the only one that I put out this year, but this particular one is fun because this is going to be all brand new book releases. So if you are one of those people who loves making autumn TBRs and spooky reading lists that kind of help you get in the mood for the fall season, but you want some new books to add to your list, hopefully you can find something in this list. So I have compiled this list of 21 brand new book releases and I've gone ahead and put them in different categories. So if you already know the vibes that you are going for, feel free to skip around the video and find the books that call out to your haunted little heart. These are the categories for this video. We've got a witchy category, so all the practical magic girlies, I got you. There is a scary and sometimes sexy creatures of the night category. We've got a dark academia category, and then also we have a haunted house / ghost category. If you're looking specifically for cozy fantasy and cozy autumn reads, that is going to be on a separate list. However, I do have quite a few like cozy books on this one as well. They just have classic spooky elements too. But okay, let's go ahead and get started with the first category, the witch category. The first new witchy book you might want to add to your autumn TBR is Rewitched, and this is by Lucy Jane Wood. This just came out this past September and it sounds so incredibly cute. So this is following Belladonna, and Belladonna feels that she has lost her magic spark. And girl, same, but it's just seasonal depression and it will pass. When Belladonna turns 30, her birthday brings a summons. I don't actually know what the hell that means, but essentially for her 30th birthday, she has to do a trial to prove that she is a good witch or prove that she has enough magic, or she will lose all of her magic forever. So she has, I think, the entire month of October to sort of try to complete this magical trial and prove that she has enough magic and that she deserves to be a witch. I am really interested in this because first of all, it has some really cute cozy vibes. She works at this magical little bookshop. I love that the entire thing takes place in October. I also feel like this is going to focus a lot on her friendships, and there's a little bit of a romance in here. But my favorite thing is that this book apparently focuses on self-love, which I love. It says believing in yourself is its own kind of magic, and this just feels so wholesome and so perfect for the season. Next up, we have The Spellshop, and this is by Sarah Beth Durst. This was actually my Patreon book club book for the month of September. This came out this August, and I love this book. This is such a cozy and cute read, especially if you want some fun witchy vibes. This book is following Keela. Keela was a magical librarian, and then the rebellion came and burned down her library and her books. So she has to flee with one of her best friends, Kaz, who is a talking plant. Like, the vibes of that alone, genius. Keela and Kaz end up running away to a magical little island where she grew up. And once she is there, she decides to open a jam shop, but really what she's doing is she's selling illegal spells. It's a beautiful, beautiful story about found family, about this cute, cozy, small town island life. We've got a lot of magical vibes in here, a lot of magical characters in here, a really sweet romance. If you are looking for a cozy read, this one is really, really great. This next book is called Sorcery and Small Magic, and it comes out October 15th. And this just sounds so fun. So Leah Vander is wonderful when it comes to casting small little bits of magic, but whenever it comes to a large spell, something disastrous ends up always happening. He ends up mixing up spells and accidentally does a really big one, and then ends up accidentally binding himself to obey every single command of his arch nemesis and enemy, Sebastian Grimm. Apparently, the only way to undo this weird spell is for them to teach team up together and go into this forest where there's lots of monsters. They gotta deal with the monsters that are in the forest, but also that are in their hearts. You know what I mean? And if you don't know what I mean I think there's gonna be some sexy times in this forest. The next book that I'm very excited to read is called A Dark and Secret Magic, and this comes out October 8th. This book sounds so perfect for the season. We're following Kate. Kate is a hedge witch. She lives by herself with her black cat in a cottage, kind of at the edge of the forest, and she likes to do things kind of on her own. But this particular autumn season, she has agreed to host the annual Halloween-themed party for her sister's coven at her house. And while she's trying to plan all of this, a sexy man named Matthew from her past also comes. I think Matthew and her had a falling out because he does forbidden magic. Okay. And the story is all about Kate and Matthew and this Halloween party. And it sounds honestly lovely. And then the final book on this list is called The Hot Hex Boyfriend, and it has already come out. It came out on September 3rd. I'm gonna tell you why I put this book on the list. It's because it sounds hilarious. So this is following Delilah, and it says Delilah does not believe in magic, but she does believe in family. And her family happens to identify as witches. Now, apparently, nobody in her family can actually do any magic, which is why Delilah doesn't really think they're actually witches. But she supports them nonetheless, and we love that for her. And then, lo and behold, she actually ends up breaking the curse. And then once Delilah accidentally breaks the curse of the family and restores the magic, her mysterious and very sexy neighbor Max, well, it turns out he was one of the ones who is trying to make sure that the curse doesn't get broken. And so he gets involved, and now we've got like a love situation, an enemies to lover situation, and a lot of magic. And that's it for the witchy category. Now let's move on to the scary but sexy creatures of the night category. So we're talking vampires, werewolves, and monsters. Oh my. So this category is gonna have some books that are a little scary and some books that are funny. Basically though, the thing that ties all of them together is that they all involve some sort of a spooky, scary, possible monster or creature of the night. Let's go ahead and start with the very first book, which is Immortal Dark, and this is by Tigist Gurma. This is stunning, first of all, but it's a YA book. It just came out. Look at the, are you kidding me? I want to keep this book forever and ever and always. It's just so beautiful. Immortal Dark is following a girl named Kaiden, I believe, and her sister June ends up disappearing. And she is convinced that the vampire that is bound to their family had something to do with June's disappearance. The only way to find out for sure is to enter into this elite, possibly magical academy, I think, where the vampire resides. Or does the vampire go to school there? I really don't know. It's kind of like Dark Academia vibes too, because she ends up having to go into this academy and party with this vampire and see what happened to her sister June. I do think this is supposed to be a little bit more scary, but it is YA, so it's probably not too bad. The next book, I just like the vibes already. Perfection. So it's called Lucy Undying, and this is by Kirsten White. This is an adult novel, and we're following Lucy, who has died tragically. The way that she died, though, is she was bit by Dracula. So she kind of becomes a vampire, obviously. And the only thing that I know about this is that apparently Lucy's death kicks off the start to her life. So she escapes Dracula. She ends up going and kind of trying to find herself. I think that this is supposed to be scary and also very spooky, but I think it's also sort of like a vampire coming of age novel. I just think this sounds so unique and so interesting, and I love reading a good vampire story. Next up is a book that has been getting so much praise and I am so excited about. It's sort of kind of giving Night Circus vibes, but make it scarier and also possibly make it sexier. I've definitely heard that this is a little spicy. It's called Phantasma, and this is by Kaylee Smith. So this book sounds so freaking good. We're following Ophelia, and Ophelia's mom has just been murdered tragically. And when that happens, all of the family debt, which also includes magical debt, falls on her shoulders as well as her sister's shoulders. And her sister decides the only way to clear their name is to win this competition that takes place in this creepy little place called Phantasma. And now Ophelia is like, I did not want to enter into this really weird competition, but I have to do it now to save my sister. So Ophelia also enters the competition, but she only enters to try to save her sister. And I guess the competition is basically just surviving Phantasma, which, by the way, I would not do well with. When I was a librarian, I decided to take all of my teens to a haunted house, and let me tell you, it was like my worst idea. So I wouldn't survive Phantasma, but maybe Ophelia will. Phantasma also sounds really atmospheric and cool. It says Phantasma is a cursed manor full of twisting corridors and lavish ballrooms, staffed by enticing demons and fatal temptations. And Ophelia must conquer all 9 floors to succeed. It also says that there's a charming, arrogant stranger who says that he can help her. And I do know that this has some sexy pages in it, so I'm assuming the sexy times are with him. The next book is a little less scary. So that was adult horror, but also I think a little bit of like a romance. This next one is adult romance, but no horror. So it's called That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. Now, technically, this is the second book in the Mead Mishaps series by Kimberly Lemming. You don't have to read them in order though. So if you just want to read this one, you can. This was initially self-published in 2022, but it has traditionally been published and it was put out as a paperback by this year. I highly recommend checking out this series for a multitude of reasons, but the number one is that it's just hilarious. I haven't read this book, but I read That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon last year, and it made my top favorite books of the entire year. It was just so funny. I've never laughed harder at a book in my whole life. Over 20,000 people have read this. It has an over 4-star rating, and that is because, my friends, not only does Kimberly Lemming know how to do spice, she also knows how to do chemistry, and she really knows how to do humor. So if you are finding that you need a little bit of pep in your step this October, I highly recommend checking out this series, but also I highly recommend maybe checking this book out. So this book is following Brie. Brie is a cheesemaker, which I think is adorable. Who doesn't love a good Brie cheese? And she ends up falling in love with a lactose intolerant werewolf, which the vibes already, I'm on the floor. So she accidentally apparently throws a drink behind her, and she thinks it's a normal drink. Turns out it's a love potion. And she also thinks that nobody's behind her, but turns out there's a werewolf. So now this werewolf is convinced that Brie is the love of his life, and she's like, hold up, it was just the drink. The next one is one of my most anticipated book releases of the entire year. It's called Don't Let the Forest In. It comes out October 29th. It has a very high rating already, so like all of the people who have been receiving ARCs are loving this. It is young adult, LGBTQ+. It's a mystery, it's gothic, and it's also categorized as horror, so I'm very, very excited. So this book is following Andrew, and I believe Andrew has unrequited pining feelings for his bestie Thomas, which, like, the vibes already, they're killing me, but they're doing it in a beautiful way. Andrew and his twin sister end up going to, a very fun academy called Wickwood Academy, and while there, Andrew finds that he is leaning on his bestie even more. However, something strange is going on with Thomas. Thomas is being haunted by something, and he seems to have lost interest in his artwork, which consists of whimsically macabre sketches of monsters. And then apparently those monsters are coming to life and the boys have to defeat the monsters. I'm into it. The next book is called Strange Beasts. This is by Susan J. Morris, and it comes out October 15th. It is an adult gothic horror mystery with elements of fantasy thrown in. It takes place at the 20th century in Paris, and we are following Sam. And Sam has a very unique ability. She can channel the minds of monsters. So I think she can hear monstrous thoughts. And she ends up teaming up with Dr. Helena Moriarty, who is the daughter of the criminal mastermind and famed nemesis of Sherlock Holmes. I think they like end up working together, and they're trying to find a mysterious monster who is going on a killing rampage. I love this. So I think that Dr. Helena Moriarty and Sam end up possibly starting a romance together, and also they are trying to track down monsters. The next one has similar vibes in the sense that we are following 3 girls. The other one was 2, but we're following 3 girls who are trying to track down a monstrous serial killer. And I don't know why, but that just sounds so fascinating. So this next book is called The Invocations. It's by Crystal Sutherland. It's actually already out. It came out really early this year in January 30th. It's following 3 different girls, and they all have different objectives as to why they want to hunt down the serial killer. One of them is trying to get her sister back, who I think has been murdered, potentially by this serial killer. Another Another one, somehow she wants her soul back. I think that she made an accidental or like a bad deal with a demon. And then the next girl wants the serial killer gone because he is killing her clients. She's like magical and she gives her clients invocations. I don't even know what that is, but she's giving them away. And then this weird monster serial killer is killing them. So she's like, can't have that. That's bad for business. Next, let's go on to ghost stories and scary houses. I obviously needed to include this category because I have loved Casper from day one. 12-year-old me, he had my whole heart. And also, to be real, I don't know if I have ever experienced anything as romantic as dancing with a ghost at a Halloween party, nor do I think I ever will. Maybe I can get those Casper vibes from one of these books. The first book is called My Darling Dreadful Thing, and this was released May of this year. So this book is following Roos. This just like, here's what it sounds like. It sounds like a love triangle, but like between two women and a ghost. Amazing. I don't actually know if I'm getting that right, but if I am, amazing. We're following Roos, and Roos has a spirit companion that only she can see, which her name is Ruth. Roos and Ruth. Match made in heaven right there. Ruth, I think, is dead. And I thought that they were girlfriends. Maybe they're just besties. I really don't know. Roos seems very, very content just hanging out with Ruth until she is invited by Agnes to live with her in her crumbling Gothic mansion. I would say yes to that immediately as well. But Ruth says yes, ends up with Agnes. And the attraction apparently between Roos and Agnes is palpable. And then the book asks this: if the tension was that great, why did one of them end up dead? Now Roos is being framed for a murder, or it looks like she committed a murder, but she's like, actually, I'm innocent. And the only way that she can prove her innocence is by proving that ghosts are real, or I don't know, something. It also takes place in the Netherlands. And I'm gonna be honest with you, besties, I miss the Netherlands pretty much every single day. I love that country with my whole entire heart, actually. I would 100% move there. So I'm very excited to read a haunted house story that takes place in the Netherlands. The next book I have is Death at Morning House. Now, I will say, I think that this takes place at the end of summer, but I do think that it's worth putting on this list because it sounds really good. This is YA. It's by Maureen Johnson, so she's the author of the Truly Devious series, and it already has a very high rating, again, on Goodreads, even though it just was released last month. And this book is following Marlo, and Marlo's last job went up in flames, quite literally. And after the first house that she was house sitting completely burns down, she ends up getting the only other job that she can get, which is a job at Morning House, which was a mansion built on an island in the 1920s. So now she works at Morning House and she gives tours of the house apparently. And all I know is that it says that there are deaths involved. I don't know what that means. I don't know if like the deaths involved at this house are old and the implication is that it's a haunted house. I don't know if the deaths are new and the deaths are gonna start to come. So you know what, listen, is it a haunted house story? It is now. The next one is a YA book by Amy Goldsmith, and it's called Our Wicked Histories. Now, this particular book is following Meg. Meg has basically been excluded from her friend group. She accidentally, I think, got kicked out of her private elite, possibly boarding school, and I don't know why. It doesn't say in the synopsis. And ever since that happened, her friends have sort of cut ties with her, and they've completely excluded her. And then, one Halloween, she is re-invited by her old bestie to this very exclusive and creepy Gothic manor in Ireland to spend like Halloween weekend at. And she's like, yes, I will do that. However, she doesn't know that it's creepy or haunted. And then she shows up and she's like, oh my God, this is creepy and haunted. And then the final haunted house story that I found that I think I really want to read this spooky season is called Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker, I think. This is an adult, tiny little novella. All I know is that it involves a reality TV show and a girl named Mara. So Mara lands a job trying to make this reality TV show seem more haunted. The show, I think, is like trolling its audience. It's pretending that all of the supernatural events are natural, but really they're being created by Mara, who is employed by this company. However, while she is trying to make fake ghosts appear real, she believes that she stumbles upon actual haunted things and ghosts. I think it's supposed to be scary, and also it just sounds really cute and fun. And this came out September 3rd. And now we are on to our final category, which is dark academia. Okay. So this last category, Dark Academia, is maybe my favorite category. I'm just like a big fan of Dark Academia, okay? Like I love the vibes so much. If I could go back to school and be an eccentric professor teaching literally anything, the answer would be yes. These are all of the books for the Dark Academia category. All of the Dark Academia books that I really, really wanted to read this year are already out, which is super exciting. Okay, let's start with An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This was a 5-star. Most of the books on this list I have not read. However, this book I have read and I devoured in like 2 days. So this book came out, I wanna say actually like in February, but for some reason I did not pick it up in February. Now you can pick it up in paperback at your local bookstore. This is 100,000,000%, in my opinion, worth the read. The book is following Laura. Laura is a freshman at a university at New England, and she goes there, I think because she wants to become a better writer, and she is let into this very exclusive writing program that freshmen just do not get into. But she's that good, okay? She was let into the program, and we love that for her. As soon as she shows up at this university, she immediately becomes enamored with a girl named Carmilla, who is a senior and also who is a writer in the writing program. However, Carmilla does not feel enamored with Laura. In fact, she feels very threatened by Laura because Laura seems to be the only other person who is as good as Carmilla at writing. And Carmilla is really vibing for the attention of this eccentric and very toxic professor who is running the program. Listen, it's toxic, okay? Don't pick up any Dark Academia book and think that you are going to get a pleasant, happy little time. And also maybe don't pick up Dark Academia books if you want healthy, non-toxic relationships. Listen, in real life, yes, but in books, it's fascinating, okay? The book is following Laura, who is pining for Carmilla, Carmilla, who is pining for the professor, and the professor who sees that Carmilla and Laura have a rivalry, and she's stirring things up, okay? She wants these girls to kind of continue to hate each other, sort of, so that their writing continues to improve. And the whole thing is weird and really sexy. And also it involves vampires. This book was loosely inspired by Carmilla. I have not read Carmilla. I do know people who have read Carmilla think that they are nothing alike. Maybe don't pick up the book if you want a more accurate retelling of Carmilla, but like I loved it, okay? I loved it. And I am gonna try to convince you to read it based off of just the vibes alone of like the first sentence. So it says, September 7th, 1968. Massachusetts greeted me with a riot of autumn color. Gold, ochre, and russet were my welcoming committee as I stepped off the plane and loaded my 2 suitcases into the car that would take me deeper into the state and on to the next 4 years of my life. The quotes in this book are stunning. Like if you want wonderful, beautiful visuals for autumn, but also you just want beautiful writing, this book honestly has it all. I'm so obsessed with it. I will say, I thought that this was YA. It's not. It's very adult. And there's one like, okay, there's one scene at this vampire party, and the vampire party, like they party hard. And I was really not expecting that. You know, maybe not, I don't have anything else to say. Like, I just wasn't expecting what happened at that party. The next book I have here is my November book club pick for my Patreon book club, and it's by Alexis Henderson, and it's called An Academy for Liars. So this book apparently is a Southern Gothic Dark Academia horror book, and like it already has my whole heart. I have very high expectations for this, and I'm nervous going in because I just loved, like I fully adored House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. I gave it 5 stars. It's actually one of my favorite horror books of all time. So I think I'm gonna love this. It's about Lennon, and Lennon Carter's life is falling apart. Then she gets a mysterious phone call inviting her to take the entrance exam for Drayton College, a school of magic hidden in a secret pocket of Savannah. You don't need to know anything else. We've got a magic academy in Savannah, Georgia, and it's gothic and creepy and scary and horrific. Why didn't I get good to go. Next up, I have another book from S.T. Gibson. This one is called Evocation, and it is the first book, I think, in a trilogy that's coming out. This book came out earlier this year, and it says, "The Devil Knows Your Name, David." This book is also by S.T. Gibson, the author of An Education in Malice, and I have actually already finished this book as well. And I will say that I did prefer An Education in Malice quite a bit more than this one, but I do also think that this is worth the read if you are looking for a fun dark academia-esque book. This is adult, and this book is really focusing more on the secret society aspect of dark academia, as well as like a sweeping library, gothic mansions, things like that. We're following David, and David has been cursed apparently. He has sold his soul or something to a demon, and the only person who can help him figure out how to break this is his ex-boyfriend Reese, who is currently married to the beautiful, the perfect, the amazing Moira. I love his wife so much. I think she's so sweet. And that's sort of how Reese is reintroduced into David's life, and he is trying to break the curse. And we're just following their character dynamics. I will say that this book had some really fun vibes with like tarot cards and secret societies and things, but it has a lot less magic than I thought it was going to have going into it. So if you go into this book, pick it up for the more subtle magical vibes and also the character relationship dynamics between the three main characters. The next dark academia book is a lot more fantasy based because it's kind of like the characters are going on a quest. This is by Alison Saft, and this is an adult dark academia book, and it's called A Dark and Drowning Tide. And it is sapphic, I believe. We're following our main character, Lorelei, who is a folklorist, I think? Yes, and she is on an expedition with 6 eccentric nobles in search of a fabled spring. However, once on this expedition, apparently her mentor is murdered, and the only person Lorelei can trust is her academic rival and enemy, Sylvia. And so the two have to team up together to try to find this spring and also not get murdered. And then finally, the very last dark academia book that I have here, I think is a little bit more rooted in like a fast-paced action-y type thing. So if that is your thing, I think this one might fit the bill. It's called The Dissonance, and this is by Sean Hamill, and this is an adult horror slash thriller, I believe. The book is following 3 besties. When they were high school students, they were students of this eccentric professor, and this professor basically taught them that they can create magic, but they can only create magic through big emotions. Apparently, like something really tragic happens. Years and years later though, they end up going back home for some random reason, and they induct a new member, and they kind of teach this new member how to use this magic and how to summon this magic. And then the new member ends up accidentally summoning a demon. I think this is gonna be really fun. I think it's gonna be really dark, but I love the vibes of this secret society, of this magic system. I think it's gonna be scary, but also I just feel like it's a fun take on dark academia and secret societies and also on magic. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. I don't know anything about it, but I wanted to include it because it sounds really unique and I think perfect for this time of year. And there you have it, my loves, 21 new book releases, perfect to add to your autumn reading list. I hope you found some books that sound good to you. And I will also go ahead and leave down below a list of different book recommendations that I've done throughout the years for a variety of different autumn vibes. So if you didn't find anything from this list, hopefully you can find something from one of the other lists as well. And now I would love to ask you, my question of the day is, what is your #1 autumn book recommendation? Let me know. It can be an old book, it can be a new book, it can be a book that just sounds really exciting to you, but I would love to know what is the #1 book you recommend to read this autumn season. And if you have made it to this part of the video, please leave me the vampire emoji, because reading doesn't suck. All right, a big thank you to all of my patrons over in Foxenwood. If you're interested in participating in a fun autumn readathon, I highly recommend checking it out. We're doing kind of like a Magical Academy themed readathon this year. There are so many graphics and bingo boards and videos and events that are happening. And then also a very special thank you to all of my Ink and Quill Club members who are all the executive producers of every single video that I make. I think though, you guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. And until next time, my spooky pals, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will chat with you very soon. Stay spooky.
Kids want